So I got my man in the studio.
Hey, in the flesh.
In the flesh.
Man, it's you got to pay a premium to get me in person these days.
Did I tell you we're on YouTube?
No.
Yeah, there's the camera right there.
Hey. Well, I like looking at you.
Okay, well, hey.
Don't.
So this will be the first time. I've been on camera on YouTube before. You haven't.
Nope.
And I've been telling you people, I started calling them explorers. Is that okay?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I've been kind of starting on the on the little offshoot podcast we have, the Vows, which now that I look at it, it's a terrible name for it. Because I've got Vow 1, Vow 2. It looks like we're getting married or something. Verse of the week.
Oh, okay.
VOW.
Yeah,
but yeah, you look at it on the list under podcast, it's just like Vow. What are we going through, a marriage encounter here? I don't know. Anyway.
I'm thinking little Dora Explorers.
Yeah. I'm the map, I'm the map, I'm the map. You know, someone worked hard on that song.
I know. Yeah, same with the Barney song. I do kind of want to slap that guy. Remember that song?
I hate Barney.
Oh, God.
I love you. You love me. And now you wonder why dinosaurs are extinct.
You guys remember that Demi Lovato was the star of Barney for a long time, right?
No. Really?
Yes, that's where she got her start.
Well, I knew Andrea, Grande. Ariana Grande. She started on a little show that she was the most annoying person in the world. She had a voice like this all the time, and she ran around. And have you ever? What show am I thinking of? My kids used to watch it.
One?
Yeah, it was a Nickelodeon show.
Yeah,
Cat or something. Cat. Her name was Cat, and she wasn't even the star of the show. No, it was. I can't think of the name of it. I can see her. I can see her face. They all in school. They do stupid things, and her name was Cat, and she was just the most annoying creature on the planet. Kind of the little tiny female version of Barney.
Oh, okay.
But she wasn't purple.
A lot of those stars started out in those. Little
Selena Gomez was on. Was it Wizards of Waverly Place?
Well, look at Britney Spears. She was her and Timberlake were both.
She was a Mouseketeer.
Mouseketeers, yeah. So yeah, weird.
So was what was the other one? That was a Mouseketeer. Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
She was. Oh yeah, she was. She was.
Mm-hmm.
And several of them were.
And now Blake is married to her, right? No. That's Gwen Stefani. He married Gwen Stefani.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he broke up with his girlfriend or wife or whatever and married horse tooth.
Miranda Lambert.
Yeah.
Gwen Stefani bothers me.
I'm not a fan.
Well, she opens her mouth and you see nothing but teeth. I mean, you never see a hole in her face. I mean, it's like she sings between her teeth like this. She's really good.
Yeah.
But it's like, good Lord. She stole some horse's teeth somewhere. Yeah. I don't know. Who'd you say, Kyle? What'd you say? Mariah Lambert?
I said well, that's who Blake was married to before. Was
Miranda Lambert?
Miranda
Lambert. I hate that name. Miranda Lambert. We went and saw it. Sounds like you're one of those, what are the little one-eyed creatures that looks like a tic-tac? Minions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Miranda Lambert. I mean, could you see one of those one-eyed guys? Miranda Lambert.
Yeah.
I bought some of her wine once. She actually has some good wine. I went to Tyler, I guess it is. She's from Tyler. And
right outside of Tyler.
Yeah, and they have a Miranda Lambert wine place. But we went and saw her in concert. And my wife loves Miranda Lambert. And I can't say it any other way.
Yeah, I could tell.
That should be the like when you buzz somebody when they like when they say a bad word or something instead of Miranda Lambert. And then I looked at my Miranda Lambert. That's some of my favorite stuff is the uncalled for censorship or whatever they call it.
Uh-huh.
The I don't remember what you know what I'm talking about, Kyle, when they do the censorship when it's really not supposed to be there.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, instead of going Miranda Lambert. If Miranda sees this, she's gonna be very angry with me. But then again, Oprah hates me, so who cares? Hey, let's get into some weird news.
All right.
All right, let's do this. That's our new news thing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I know. We did it last week too, but
cool.
But yeah, it's pretty new. All right. So I was telling you guys that I started naming our news feeds or our weird news. And all of these, just so the listeners understand, are 100% true. We didn't make anything up. We're not that good. The title of this story is "I'll Take That to Go, Please."
Okay.
An Irving Park man is charged with attempted murder in connection with shooting that led to a police chase that ended with a driver crashing into a Lincoln Square Giddings Plaza. Alexandra Mahai, M-I-H-A-I, Mahai, 19, will appear in bond court on Thursday. He's been charged with attempted murder, possession of a stolen vehicle, and possession of a controlled substance. Police said that Mahai drove a stolen car that had a gun in it and was involved in a shooting. The shooting happened around 2 o'clock at the 4200 block of Northwestern Avenue. Someone in the stolen Porsche drove up beside someone else's car and shot into the other car, striking the victim. The driver of the Porsche then fled at a high rate of speed. I don't know why you're doing that, Kyle. You're killing me.
I was testing.
What are you testing?
You'll find out in a minute.
Okay. Police said the shooting victim, 25, he's going to be okay. But apparently the driver crashed into what did I say? It was Lincoln Square, left the vehicle, left on foot. They began chasing him where he ran into a Mexican restaurant, which was all well and good, except the only people in the Mexican restaurant were about 12 armed police officers.
Nice.
And, of course, they'd all been listening to it on the radio. And here he comes.
Wow.
I guess, like I said, he'll take that to go.
Yep. Dinner is served.
So I just find this a little bit humorous. Apparently in the Netherlands, Vincent Corneliussen posted a picture that he took of a goose flying upside down.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. Of course, that prompted everybody to have these theories about why the goose was flying upside down. Was it
I think
sick?
he was drunk.
Was it injured? No, he wasn't that either. So a bird expert finally chimed in, and you know what the bird's doing?
No.
It's called whiffling. He's just showing off.
Oh. They have balls for that, don't they? Not the birds. They
With bird balls.
they have wiffle balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
yeah, apparently.
speaking of which,
Birds just showing off.
You ever smelled mothballs?
Yeah.
How'd you get their little legs apart? Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I walked into that one.
All right, here's the next story. Firemen don't like donuts. All right. According to an incident report from the Madison Fire Department, authorities got a call reporting a fire at 10:20 p.m. Saturday. Upon arriving the hotel parking lot at 4800 block of Hayes Road, firefighters saw one car fully engulfed in flames and the vehicle next to it also in flames. According to the driver, he was doing donuts in the parking lot when the rear of the car started smoking and burst into flames. He exited the car, ran into the hotel looking for a fire extinguisher. He couldn't find one, and by the time firefighters were there, both cars were fully engulfed in flames. See, firemen don't like donuts.
Jeez.
See, now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see? Trying to be Paul Harvey over here. All right. Here's one. This one cracks me up. Okay. This one I call Light You Up.
Okay.
All right. Now, in Japan, I'm not going to read this whole story because it's very long, but I'm going to summarize. In Japan, it's very difficult to get a hold of any type of weapon. That includes guns, knives, or anything else. It's very difficult to walk around the streets of Japan with a weapon. However, Tomoharu Nakamura, I guess you have to when you do that. Tomoharu Nakamura of Sapporo took that a little too far. The 41-year-old was arrested on multiple charges in addition to attempt of robbery with a lighter.
Okay.
At around 3:30 p.m. on August 21st at a convenience store in Kyoto Ward, Nakamura allegedly entered the store, clicked his lighter, and pointed at the manager saying, "Out with the money or I'll light you up."
Oh my god.
That's exactly
that worked?
what I thought.
That reminds me of the guy from TikTok. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that guy. Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that
yeah,
guy.
Yeah.
Well, since the manager was not a scarecrow, he took the calculated risk that instead of bowing to the demands of Nakamura, he just called the police.
Oh my gosh. I thought he at least used the end of it as to
No,
simulate
no.
a gun or something.
No, the funny thing is, police quickly arrived on scene, and Nakamura then turned the lighter onto them.
Oh, jeez. At least get some WD-40 or something. I mean, come on.
Nope. Yeah, so, I mean, pretty much all you had to be a superhero was go. All right, here's the next one. Now that's fast. That's the name of this one. A roller coaster in Japan known for its super death acceleration to triple-digit speeds was reportedly shut down after riders suffered serious bone fractures. Multiple news agencies reported 4 cases of fractures in the back and neck linked to the do-do-nimpa. What is that word? Do-do-nimpa.
Sure.
I don't know. The coaster in Fuji-Q Highland Park. So they had to shut it down. Now, here's the funny part. That's not the funny part. It is the funny part. But this same park had gotten... I got to find it. Right. The same park came under fire last year during the pandemic when it said, "Please do not..." Everyone was screaming as they were getting on the fire. This is a quote from the newspaper. "Please scream inside your heart instead of out loud to help stop the spread of the coronavirus."
No way.
Swear it's written in print right there.
Oh my
Please scream in your heart. Kyle, you watch TikTok a lot, right?
You squeeze too hard and it might come out the other end.
It's a whole different disease we got to worry about.
So Kyle was talking about the TikTok. The ones I love are the ones of the slingshot, where they, you know which one I'm talking about, Kyle? That slingshot ride where they pull you down and then poof.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
The ones of the guys that just pass out. That just, the biggest burly, they look like you.
Yeah.
And they take off, they're like, ah! And that's it. They're done for the ride. That's the whole ride for them. They just paid $45 to pass out.
Gosh.
All right, I got one more. Kyle, this is from Australia.
Okay.
Kyle visited Australia a little bit. Apparently,
Where in Australia?
it's along the coast. I do have a specific place somewhere in here, but I don't know exactly where. The northeastern coast of Australia. Divers are starting to be accosted by the Apsurius levius, also known as the olive sea snake. These snakes are beginning to get closer and closer to the divers and beginning to wrap around their legs and feet. These are venomous. They're usually not deadly, but they are venomous. Why are the snakes doing something like this? They're in heat.
Okay.
They are trying to court the divers.
Ugh.
One of the people said that, what was the quote she put? The quote was, "I don't know how you would say it other than that the snakes have their beer goggles on and their hormones are skewing their behavior." That was a quote from one of the biologists.
Oh, biologists. So it wasn't like one of those toothless rednecks.
No, it was Kate
interviewed
Sanders,
by
who's an evolutionary scientist.
okay.
She also quoted that it's just best to let them finish. And that if you try to aggressively to get them off, that they will bite you. So just let them finish.
Let them finish. I got you.
How about no?
They are venomous and they will kill you. I mean, if bitten long enough and multiple times, they are deadly. So you can fight them if you want to, but the experts say let them finish. And then you can take a shower, smoke a cigarette, and go to bed.
Do you get to charge extra for it?
I don't know, but we're done with this.
It's your story, man.
All right. So, as we speak right this minute, Hurricane Ida is coming off, just made landfall a couple of hours ago at Lafourche Parish in southern Louisiana. I've got some relatives that actually live in Grand Isle, which was just right in the target zone of that.
They used to.
Well, yeah, and then I've got other relatives that are in Baton Rouge and Slidell. I'm hoping they all got out because it's kind of headed towards the Baton Rouge area. And Ida was 145 mile an hour or 150 miles an hour when it hit. And then there was the the Grand Isle police chief. I think you showed some videos on your Facebook page of Grand Isle, and the police chief there was on with the news team. And he measured winds at 148 miles an hour.
Wow.
So it was every
He said
bit
what?
of what
100 and what?
Yeah, he had measured winds at 148 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So, it's just like God has been trying to get rid of New Orleans for quite a while now. At some point, you would think.
Poor people, man.
Yeah, no, it's bad. Hopefully they got out.
Well,
but
what you're worried about, our president has had a phone call with FEMA.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's anything like Afghanistan, well, nobody's there,
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're just they're all gone.
President took a phone call.
Yeah.
It's all worked out.
Yeah, I'll be there.
No more questions.
That's it. Okay, I guess we're done. Y'all be good for next week, and we'll see. Now, this is gonna be interesting. In the wake of Kabul, and in the wake of everything else this bumbling idiot has tried to do, this will be his first other than the pandemic, which he is completely and utterly, just. How's he going to handle this?
Or how are his handlers going to
I
handle
can
it?
tell you how he's going to handle
He's going to
this.
put Kamala in charge of it.
He's going to make a
go
phone
off to
call.
Honduras.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to make a phone call. Yeah, of course he will. I don't know who he's going to call, but Ghostbusters, I'm not sure. But
FEMA. He's just going to
He
let
is
FEMA do
FEMA.
what they're supposed to do.
he is FEMA.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the one in charge here.
Hopefully FEMA has learned a bit since the last time around.
16 years ago
But-
today. 16 years ago today.
Yeah, but for as much bashing as they took, I actually defended FEMA. Now, don't get me wrong; they could have done a lot of things better. But I remember in particular there was a story that came out that there was 10,000 travel trailers sitting in a pasture in Arkansas not being used.
Yeah.
How dare the government waste those resources? And I've told Troy about this, so he probably has the number. But Justin, I'll just ask you: in the wake of Katrina, how many trailers do you think FEMA provided for people, specifically for Hurricane Katrina?
I don't know, 5,000?
His ears are smoking.
Yeah.
5,000? No, they provided over 120,000.
My grandmother and aunt were one of them.
Well, and that was probably for Rita, and that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, I was going to say it was Rita,
120,000 plus from Katrina did not include the additional trailers that they also provided to people in southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas after Rita hit shortly afterwards.
Yeah.
So, you can blast them all you want, but fact of the matter is FEMA really, achieved something that no other civilization has ever been able to do.
No, and Bush got such a horrible rap.
Well,
over
there
that.
was a lot of mistakes made.
Well, there was, but it wasn't. I don't think it was on the federal level. I think it was on the local level.
Yeah, definitely challenges.
There was, yeah.
I mean, that was more the governor and the mayor that were more at fault at that than anything.
Well, and I also personally, and this is just my opinion, blame the national media because, I was watching the coverage and they were all based in the French Quarter and, they were all reporting on Canal Street.
Yeah.
And if you remember, everybody said over and over again, New Orleans dodged a bullet. New Orleans dodged a bullet. New
Yeah.
Orleans dodged a bullet. The only big thing anybody noted was the roof of the Superdome.
Right.
Then, like 2 days later,
That's when the
the
levee broke.
reporters are going down to Canal Street, and they're like, wait a minute, why is there water on Canal Street? Maybe we need to be looking around and see what's going on. Nobody was going out into the city, and nobody was checking on the levees. So none of that was being reported. Meanwhile, things were just absolutely swirling down the toilet bowl as far as the society in New Orleans was concerned, because, I mean, it just descended into chaos quickly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they had problems with rescue helicopters making it in, and supposedly people shooting at that. And, I mean, it was just a mess all the way around.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there was a lot of mistakes made. But going back to the trailers, the other thing about those trailers is, and this is something else I've told people, you know, let's say, for example, you had 10 acres and you contact FEMA and said, hey, I've got room for you to put 500 trailers on my 10 acres and you can lease the land or whatever. It's not a matter of just bringing trailers to a place and setting them up. You have to provide electricity for hundreds of trailers, water for hundreds of trailers, sewage for hundreds of trailers. They actually provided cable TV, I believe, to most of them. But the other thing is, because it was a government thing, they all had to be ADA compliant. So every single one of those travel trailers had to have a stoop constructed to put on the front.
Well,
So-
and they were not actual. I mean, some of them were, but most of them were not actually travel trailers. These were made specifically for what they were being used for, because, you know, a travel trailer is typically self-contained. It's got a water tank and it's got its own sewage, and you can actually go park it, plug it in, and for a few days you can be fine. These are not that way. They had no fresh water. They had no storage tanks. They had nothing. So everything had to be hooked up with these things before they could be livable. Which, no, FEMA did a great job, and I'm sure they will do a great job again. And like I said, George Bush took a heck of a hit on that, which I don't think all of it was deserved. I think maybe a little bit was. Yeah. But, I mean, I think that the governor and the mayor of that you know, town and state, they really dropped the ball on that one. And the mayor this time, and I almost screamed at her this time, almost. Because yesterday at around noon, 1 o'clock, she made an announcement for people to shelter in place in New Orleans. And I was just about to scream, really, we're going to do this again? The problem was that the I-10 corridor was so backed up that you weren't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, later in the evening and later in the afternoon and early this morning, they said, okay, if you can get out, get out. And at that time, this morning, the freeways were still pretty packed, but they were moving. And the one thing I saw when I was watching the news channel, I saw everybody going west, which I don't know why nobody wants to go east, but everybody was going west. And the other lanes were empty. And of course, the first thing in my head is, why aren't we doing contraflow? And that was the first thing I thought of. And sure enough, Jim Cantori goes, now, before you get upset about us not doing the contraflow, we didn't have near enough time to set this up. Which, I don't know if that's true or not. We've had, since Thursday, I think, they've said that this was going to come. Now, it wasn't until yesterday that they started predicting it to be Category 3, Category 4. Yeah. Up until then, it was going to be, you know, a 1 or a 2. It wasn't going to be that big a deal. So I'll give them a break on that one. I'll let them pass on that one. But yeah, I mean, I think that she probably did a good thing, because if you get everybody out on the road at one time, there's nothing. I mean, look what happened here in Rita. Mm-hmm. People were stuck on I-45 for days. But so when I went in the Air Force, just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, when I went in the Air Force, the day before I left for Guam was sometime in June 1986, and a hurricane named Hurricane Bonnie. I don't know. Do you remember Hurricane Bonnie, Kyle, in 1986?
Yes, I do.
And this is one of those ones. We lived in Beaumont, Texas, which is just a little bit further from Houston, on the East Coast, or down east on the Gulf Coast. And so Hurricane Bonnie came in, and this is one of the few hurricanes that I've ever been through where the eye went directly over Beaumont, Texas. I've been in a lot where the eye skirted it, the eye went around it, but this one, the eye went directly over the top of Beaumont, Texas. And it wasn't that big of a hurricane. It was a Cat 1, Cat 2. It wasn't that big, but it was a hurricane. And we're right on the coast, so we're the first ones to get it. And I remember I'm standing on my front porch and I'm watching across the street, and these trees are just bowing, just bowing, and they're leaning way over, and then all of a sudden they just stopped. And they didn't stand back up, but they kind of came up a little bit, and the wind just stopped. Now, I didn't get the clear blue sky thing or nothing like that, but everything stopped. I mean, literally stopped. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And of course, we look at the news. Oh, we're in the eye. Oh, great. Okay. Then the backside of the eye wall hit. When the backside of the eye wall hit, all of those pine trees broke and took off. They didn't stand a chance. And the reason being was because as the eye wall approached, the wind got a little bit more, and it just slowly pushed him over. But the backside of the eye wall was 100 miles an hour, all of a sudden, and broke every tree. It was back behind Miss Tomlin's house, Kyle, is what I was talking about, if you remember that, where that church was, that we used to slide down that A-frame church, which was... Do you remember climbing that thing? Did you ever climb that with me?
I never climbed it.
Oh, I did.
Probably because I knew what might happen to me.
Oh, that was so stupid. It was this church building, and I tell you, it was an A-frame, and it looked like that. And then it had like a porch landing on here, so we would get on the porch landing, and we would try to climb up to the top of that thing,
Right.
which was great if you got up to the top, but there's only one way down.
Yeah.
And I always kept Todd Ashbacker in the back of my head, Kyle, when I slid down that church.
Yeah. I wasn't going to talk about that.
So the next day after Hurricane Bonnie, I got on an airplane and flew out to Guam. Skip ahead 2 years, and I'm flying home. I'm scheduled to come home. And darned if we didn't get a typhoon go right over the top of Guam, with the eye going right over the center of Guam the day before I flew home.
Wow.
Now, in Guam, I was a fireman. And so, we had the important job. You know what our job was?
To blow out the lighter?
Our job was to go around the entire base and pull all the coconuts out of the trees. Because at 125 miles an hour, those become kind of missiles. So you don't really think about it until we would go around with we had the ladders, so pulling out the coke, and we would load up these trucks just full of coconuts. We'd take them down and give them to the people at the market. But yeah, that's so I left Texas in a hurricane, and I left Guam in a typhoon.
Wow.
I don't know if that's Mother Nature's way of saying get the hell out or what, but she was pretty clear. They didn't like me in either place.
I remember telling you when I found out you were going to Guam, the only thing I knew about Guam was that the highest recorded wind speeds on Earth took place on Guam.
Typhoon Pamela.
Right before the equipment blew away.
Yep. Yeah, it was like 300 miles an hour, but then all the equipment just blew away, so they don't know how fast it really was. Jeez. That was Typhoon Pamela, and it destroyed the entire island of Guam. And that was back in the 60s, I think. But it destroyed the entire island, which it wasn't a big island. So, but yeah, and then Kyle and I used to be cat adjusters where we would chase these storms all over. And so he and I have been through countless hurricanes where we go in after the fact and see all the devastation. Well, hey, let's pause here and let's get ourselves a break and give these commercials a chance to go ahead and do their thing. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. Okay, so we're broke, but guess what? We're still on YouTube. I can't pause the YouTube.
That's true.
I can pause.
That's probably a good thing.
I know I can pause the podcast.
Can we just go?
Can't hear you, Mom.
Yeah. Justin's gone. He's not there. Justin just disappeared. I don't know where he went. That was such a... I've got the recording of that.
Do you?
I do.
We should have like a
blooper reel.
Yeah.
Well, we get enough of this going.
Maybe
we will. But that
people.
was, oh my gosh! And then my dad kept doing this, go, and the camera would go right up his nose. And you're just like, Dad, stop! Oh, 70-some-odd-year-old parents, you gotta love them.
especially on wireless internet.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're on Verizon, and they told me, they goes, well, after 15 gigabits, they slow us down. So we've done 16, so we're going to be a little slow. But see, Riverside, the platform we're on right now, it continues to record locally.
Yeah.
So it actually records locally and then uploads it to the cloud. So the whole time that they're going, I can't hear you. What? Are they there? Justin's gone. Oh, there went Kyle. He's gone. The whole time they're doing that, they're being recorded and they don't even know it. And so it's just hilarious. And of course, we're answering questions from 3 minutes ago.
Exactly.
When I didn't realize that until I had taken my hat off, and I just scratched my head and put my hat back on, and then 2 minutes later, my dad goes, "Put your hat back on."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh man, that's when I said, "That's it, we're done. We're done." So I'm gonna have to go and I'll have to go to their house and.
So Troy, you know that series of commercials where he's trying to keep people from turning into their parents?
Oh, yeah,
Oh yes, I love that guy. I love that guy.
Hilarious.
There's a new one that I saw yesterday that I had to laugh. The guy's in line at the store to buy a shirt.
Yeah.
He's like, "You like that shirt, huh?"
Oh yeah.
He was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Does it look familiar?"
Oh, it's the one he's
got it
wearing.
on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
I'm gonna get it anyway. The airport one's funny because man, I say about 75% of what they were laughing about.
Which part?
You seen the one when they're at the airport? Oh, they're like everybody got their paper, boarding passes and
I always use
the
paper
very-
boarding.
See, I never do anymore.
I don't anymore, but I used to for a
Yeah,
long time.
I know,
'Cause
exactly.
I didn't trust it.
Even the app I didn't trust for a long time, but but then the closing scene is people like running past this lady, and it's like, you should have left earlier. It's like, I try not to think that, but I do.
Some of the ones I is like the one where the guy's in the back and he's backing him out of the space. He goes, "He doesn't know you. You don't know him. Go move along." Yeah. or he's in the hardware store. Oh yeah, that's a great. He didn't ask your opinion.
Exactly.
And the signs. My wife has all those signs. Do we really need a sign to live, laugh, and love? Yes, we do. No, we don't. Love that guy. He cracks me up. And the funny part, my favorite one though, is when he's doing the like the people are out. He's standing up and talking to him. He goes, "All of you who printed directions to be here, you're in the right place." And this one lady in front's just going, "Yeah, yeah." She has no idea that he's ragging on her. So, all right.
Those are good.
Are we done with our break?
Yeah.
Because we didn't really get a break.
We need to tap dance until. Oh, so we do know what we're doing. Okay.
No, do we know what we're doing?
I think so.
We can come back from break and I'll give you a little update on the hurricane. How
Oh,
about
good.
that?
Okay, that's a good idea. All right, so we need to hit all
do
the
some,
buttons
like,
just right here.
Newscaster on the scene.
Do you want the news music?
No,
I'm gonna do it anyway.
we don't need the news
I'm
music.
gonna do it anyway. And now, live from a studio in Liberty Hill, Texas, Kyle Hawkins with a weather update. What you got for us, Kyle?
I'm watching the radar because I know we both have interests in South Louisiana, and
do.
it looks like
I don't know if mine are still there or
Ida
not.
has gone to Homa and is basically
gone
hooking
home?
a right.
It's gone home?
Homa, you know Homa.
Homa on the Ranger?
You gonna get a bunch of people chasing you down.
No, they can't hear anything right now. All their
It's
electricity's
Homa
gone.
as in Indians.
I know who they be.
Yeah, they'll use you for gator bait.
And feathers, not dots, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Most of the ones I know actually have no hair at all. Anyway,
The Homa
it
Indians,
looks
yeah.
like
Yeah, they got
it
that.
made it to
They got
Homa.
that recessive gene.
and is
got
now making a beeline to New Orleans,
Nolans.
which is kind of crazy because 4 or 5 hours ago, New Orleans started posting pictures of damage when the hurricane was 80 miles away.
Oh, yeah, they got one of the guys standing out there from the Weather Channel is the whole roof of one of those buildings is in the street. It's
Right.
It's a flat built up. You and I know what that means. Nobody else does, but was the entire. It wasn't just a piece of it, Kyle. It was like the whole thing
Yeah.
was laying in the street.
Yeah, I know exactly where it is.
Oh, you
It's
saw it?
right
Yeah,
by
it
the
was-
Jackson, down
Yeah.
by the brewery.
Yeah, yeah. So
Well, what used to be a brewery.
So I guess I'll meet you at Bourbon Heat next week.
No, we can meet at Jean Lafitte's blacksmith shop, 1 block down, and then we can go anywhere we want to go.
No, okay. Of course, I took a trip to Kyle. Well, it was Katrina. I was in Hurricane Katrina, and I was working Katrina, and I called up Kyle and I said, "Dude, man, what's a good place to go eat?" And he's like, "Oh, man, okay," because Kyle used to live there. Now, Kyle used to live there in the freaking 90s, but Kyle used to live there. So I go and, he goes, "Oh, you need to go to such and such. And, oh, man, they got great boudin balls. They got this, they got that. You got to go." I said, "All right, how do I get there?" He goes, "All right, go down this." And he would talk me. And then and 20 minutes later, I'd pull up. I'd go, "Yeah, they're closed." He says,
Yeah.
"Well, it's in." I said, "No, I don't mean they're closed, Kyle. They're not here. They're gone." "Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, where do you need to go?" And we did this like 4 or 5 times.
Sure.
And all of these places were just gone. And he never told me where to go. I never got a good place to eat out of him.
Well, here's the funny thing, though. Like 2 months after all that, Troy comes to Austin with a trainee, this girl, and we all go to lunch together. Well, the girl was from New Orleans also. And she's like, "Well, where'd you tell him to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, first place I told him was Semolina's." She's like, "Oh, I love Semolina's. That would have been that's a great place." She's like, "Wait, it wasn't there anymore?" I was like, "No, it's not there." So I told her like every place I told him to go. And she like totally agreed that that's exactly where I should have sent him. And
Go.
she was just as shocked as I was to find out that all these different places had closed.
I'll go. So I have a feeling this is going to be, gosh, after the pandemic and now this. And New Orleans has been hit hard with the Rona. In fact, they were one of the hardest hits of the whole thing, including this resurgence.
Yeah.
They've been getting hit hard. So I mean, all these businesses are that were closed down for the Rona, or were just barely getting by and just starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. And now here comes Ida. Mm-hmm. Man, it just. I mean, okay, the name of our show is Exploring the Way. So we try to, look into God's Word and try to get some understanding. And so I'm from all of this, I'm sitting here going, where's God in all this? Where's God in all this? And then it hit me. It was, and you can tell me where it is. Because again, I'm one of those that can't really tell you where it is, but I can tell you what it is. But it's when the disciples got in the boat and they were going to the other side of the sea, and a big giant storm came up, and the disciples are just freaking out. They're just losing it. And Jesus is up in the front taking a nap. And it gets worse, and it gets worse, and they're afraid they're going to fall in and drown. They're afraid they're all going to die. And there's Jesus taking a nap. The guy must have been tired to be able to sleep through all that. But the beauty of that was that the disciples kind of had lost their faith. The fact that God is right there.
Yeah.
He's right there. You don't think that he's doing what he should be doing. You don't think that he's doing what he ought to be doing, but he's right there. And so you've lost faith in that. And I think a lot of what we've gone through in what's going on in the world today with the the coronavirus and the pandemic and the debacle overseas, and now this hurricane that's going to hit this poor, I joke a lot about New Orleans, but these poor people that just, I don't know if they can handle it anymore. And I'm sure a lot of them are sitting there going, and New Orleans and that whole area down there is a very religious area. They're mostly Catholic, but they're very devout Catholics. And I'm sure they're all going, okay, Jesus, if you're taking a nap, we need you to wake up now.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I think. What do you see?
I couldn't say that I wouldn't be in the same boat if I were them. I mean, they are a very resilient people as well.
No.
Time after time after time, you just kind of wonder, where is he so I could shake him awake? Is he even around? It's got to be a tough place to be. What's interesting about the section of scripture, so it's one of my favorite stories in the entire Bible for a lot of reasons, and I probably in this segment won't go into the deeper significance, I think, about this story, but kind of in context of what we're talking about. What's interesting was the very start of the story. It says, on that day, when evening came, he said to them, let's go to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And so they hop in a boat. As some of you may know, the Sea of Galilee is known for these storms that come out of nowhere.
Right.
And they are terrifying. They can sink ships. They can kill people. Very, very terrifying. So they were in all right, entitled to be extremely nervous about that. Probably even questioned ahead of time. Dear, are you sure? Like this time of the year,
there's some
right
clouds
now?
over there.
So keeping in mind, Jesus was the one that says, let's go to the other side. He gets in, starts cruising along, takes a nap. All this stuff happens. He stays asleep. So they start looking around, freaking out. They wake him up and said, teacher, do you not even care that we're perishing? So then it says he got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, hush, be still. And the wind died down, and it became perfectly calm. This is interesting. And then it says, Jesus said to them, why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?
Right.
So I'm going to kind of unpack this just for a second because I think there's some significance here.
Yeah.
And some of this may be a little allegorical, but I think it really points to something interesting. So it all starts with Jesus saying, let's go to the other side.
Right.
And when he says something to you, hey, I want you to start a business. Hey, I want you to adopt a child. Those are commands that he's basically saying, I'm going to walk this out with you.
I think I know where you're going, yeah.
So he doesn't ever tell us to do something without him being there with us and providing the provision for it and providing the peace along the way and everything else. Now, this is fairly new. They were fairly new into their ministry. I mean, this is the 4th chapter of Mark. So
yeah, they hadn't been around too
they
much.
weren't. Yeah, so they had just been called. Jesus had just been doing a few miracles. So these guys are still kind of checking them out. Okay, I see some supernatural things here, but we'll see how this thing shakes out. So all the while, I think Jesus walking, talking with them. I mean, it's safe to assume that he was prepared. He was discipling them, and he was discipling them to walk out the kingdom of heaven here as it is in heaven.
Right.
So he was demonstrating for them what was possible when you bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. And this is an example where when he gave the mandate, let's go to the other side.
Yeah, he didn't say, let's get in the boat and go in the water.
Yeah. He also, exactly. And so what he was trying to teach them was when there's a kingdom mandate, we're going to go to the other side for some ministry. All of the resources of heaven are going to be with us.
Yeah.
And we are completely inside the Father's will. So we have absolutely nothing to worry about. So that should have been like their assurance that no matter what, they were going to make it because Jesus wanted them to be on the other side.
Right.
Now, again, they were still getting to know this guy, and everything else. I'm not faulting them whatsoever, but what's interesting is they start looking around, they start freaking out. Jesus said, was awoken, said, "Hush, be still," and and everything else. We know the rest of the story. But so here's the allegorical part. So Jesus was God, God in the flesh, and the disciples were talking to Jesus in person. So
Right.
allegorically speaking,
Yeah, you're speaking to God, yeah.
yes. And what is that called?
Prayer, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. So allegorically,
Well, I guessed it right.
these guys were basically
Get
praying.
a star.
They were like, "Lord, please wake up and save our life. Can't you have mercy on us? Like, look around, man. What's wrong with you?" Praying to him. Hey, God, help me in this situation. Okay. He wakes up. Peace be still. Everything calms down. And he says to them, "Why are you afraid? Do you have no faith?" We're taught as Christians that when we pray, we have faith enough to at least pray. Now, there's the whole mustard seed thing.
Yeah.
But if I'm in a situation where I'm about to lose my job, I've got a couple choices. One of them could be I just grind it out and I just kind of take my lucky rabbit's foot, or count on my lucky stars, whatever it is, and just just work it out myself or have enough faith to bring God into that situation.
Yeah, and you taught me something, and I don't know if this is where you're going, but this is what you taught me, because you are one of those few, and there's not many of you around. There's every church has 2 or 3 or 4, but there's never a lot of them. What I would call prayer warriors, and I would call you a prayer warrior. And you taught me to pray expectantly. You taught me to pray as though. I don't want to say this in such a way that, and I don't mean like, God, I need a Lamborghini, and there's a Lamborghini. But as long as we're praying within His will and within, the realm of that we should pray expectingly as though God's going to do it. I mean, He's going to do it. And, even if He doesn't, that's okay. But we should pray as though He is. And we should also, you also taught me how to pray by reminding God of His promises. Mm-hmm. And not that He needs to be reminded, not that, right. God didn't forget about His promises, but in doing that, we are speaking God's word directly back to God. And I think it's a better show of faith on our part, saying, hey, I know you can do this. I know you're able. I know that this can happen, but even if you don't, it's okay. Right. But I'm going to expect it. So exactly. That's the way you taught me how to pray.
For sure. And I think that's what Jesus was trying to teach them was when I say something, expect that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so the whole, let's go to the other side, he was, I think, hoping that they would have rest assured that was going to happen regardless. Whether storm, whether bandits, pirates, whatever, they would have made it because that was kind of God's will. And again, I mean, there's mercy involved in all that other stuff. In fact, maybe for another episode, we'll kind of dive into the rest of the story because there's another chance where they're in a boat again with Jesus.
Right. And
a storm rises and everything else.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about there,
And he kind of rebukes them again. And but with this specific one, kind of going back to, so they are kind of praying.
Can everybody hear the dog in the background? That's my wonderful little puppy. Sorry about that. Anyway.
It's but what strikes me the most about this thing and what caught my attention when it comes to prayer is I always thought that I was like the disciples. Something happens in life. Oh my God, Jesus, like, wake up, I need you. And He usually answers the prayer. And typically when we get an answered prayer, we think, all right, I succeeded in prayer.
Yeah.
I got my answer.
Yeah.
That should be the goal in life when it comes to prayer, is getting our answer. Jesus gave him the answer and then says, why do you have no faith?
Right.
And I mean, this is one of the most complexing verses to me because it makes me check my heart. Am I praying out of fear or am I praying expectantly?
Expectantly, yeah.
Because even in my prayer, it could potentially be faithless.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And I want to touch on that other time about the boat, because one of the things, and I know that this is probably where you're going with that, because, and the time that you're thinking of is they were in the boat by themselves this time. Uh-huh. And the storm came up. Uh-huh. And again, they were rattled, and again, they were afraid. But off in the distance, they see Jesus actually walking on the water, the famous walking on the water thing. And he looks at Peter, and Peter looks at him, and he says, come here.
Yeah.
He goes, and so Peter, out of faith, gets out of the boat and walks towards Jesus. And then all of a sudden, Peter realized, holy crap, I'm walking on water. And he took his eyes off of Jesus and looked down and immediately began to sink. And then Jesus reached down and pulled him back up. And I think that's a very compelling illustration of how our eyes always need to be fixed on Jesus, that it's not us walking on the water. It's not us with the ability to just get out and walk. Oh, look at me, I'm walking on water. No. I've got my eyes fixed on Jesus, and Jesus is allowing me to walk on the water. Jesus is the one making me, giving me the ability to walk on the water. It has nothing to do with me. And as soon as I forget that, and as soon as I take my eyes off of that, bam, I'm going to sink, and I'm going to go down with the ship. Which is kind of somewhat just like what you were saying, is that, the faith is that he's right there. and we're praying to him. And as long as he's there and as long as we keep our eyes on him, then what do we have to be afraid of? But in all that, in saying that, I got a question for you. What happens when we pray that way? And I'll tell you the example I'm thinking of here in just a second. When we pray that way and we pray expectantly and we pray reminding God of his promises and we pray expecting the miracle and expecting everything to be okay, and then it tragically isn't. And what I'm talking about is a couple of weeks ago, my pastor lost his wife. She died of complications around COVID. My pastor's a very, very faithful man. He's a very godly man. He's a very spiritual man. And I know that he prayed. And I know that my entire church got behind this. I prayed. We all prayed, and we all prayed expectantly. We all reminded God of his promises, and even you got in on that. I remember you sent him some prayer. And God's answer was nope. How do we justify that? How do we get through that? I mean, well, how do you get through that?
I mean, I don't have everything figured out. It took me a very long time to get comfortable with the notion that I try to ask God what his will is before really praying about something. And there's a lot of times where he doesn't tell me. I mean, I try and then I just go along with either what's biblical in a situation or what's my heart telling me according to the Holy Spirit, whatever. But but there's a lot of times. This one, we had a lady in our church recently pass away due to complications from COVID, and very unexpectedly, very tragically. And I think at the end of the day, for me personally, no matter what happens, and I haven't gone through losing a spouse or something like that, but it's simply relying on God's goodness, knowing that his ways aren't my ways, knowing that if this person was saved, that they're in a much better place.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to job loss or some financial distress or something like that. I mean, this is a very broad brush, stroking here, but I have to rely on God being a good father.
Yeah.
Have to, because where else am I going to turn? I can't rely on the world to do me a solid, and I'm sure not intelligent enough to pull myself up by my own bootstraps and, dig myself out of holes at times and mend, different things and stuff. I'll give it the college try, but, I need to rely on him, man, seriously. And I can only do that knowing that he's a good father, and whatever he decides, whatever his will is, whatever he allows, I have to believe in my heart of hearts that it's ultimately for good.
Well, yeah, and especially we look at, especially situations like this where there's somebody sick, and close to death or dying, and we pray and we pray and we pray and please bring them back. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling that that's a very selfish prayer. I mean, when we think about it, when we get back to this, it's a very selfish prayer because we are praying to keep that person from seeing Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's very selfish in that we don't want to lose them. We want to keep them around. We love them. We care for them. They have kids. They have a family. They have this. They have that. And they're important to all of these people, and they're important to us. And we would be very heartbroken, and we would be devastated if we lost that person. But that's a very selfish. When I think about it, it's a very selfish thing. And most of our prayers are pretty selfish anyway. I mean, like you said, with the job and with everything else, it's usually having to do normally with something about me, unless we're praying for someone else, and then we're still somewhat selfishly praying about that. But, I look at that and say, okay, what about the prayer of the person involved? Maybe they're praying, hey, I just want to see you.
True.
I just want to be with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sick anymore. I don't want to be hurting anymore. I don't want to be this. I just want to be with you. And how do we know that is not the prayer that God answered?
That's true. Yeah.
especially for someone who's saved.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So-
I do see a lot of times though, like a lot of parents would take their kids up to Jesus and ask them to, raise them from the dead or heal them. There's even demoniacs and things like that. I don't know, man. I see your point, and to a degree, I agree. But I have to believe that there's like the empathetic compassion on the father side. That
Of course,
yeah. And I'm not saying you're not.
course.
I'm just saying that maybe I lean into that more when praying for the sick. I mean,
Well, we have to.
yeah,
I mean,
we have
otherwise
to,
we
exactly.
wouldn't. Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's commands that we're supposed to
Yeah.
pray and bring them to the
Right.
elders and heal and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think because they did it to Jesus and they didn't get rebuked, and Paul says to do it and stuff, that we're going to continue.
Well, yeah, and I think my point in all that is not that we don't pray for them, and not that we don't, try to intercede, and not that's not my point at all. My point is that in those moments of disappointment, in those moments of, why didn't God answer my prayers? In those moments of why did you take her? We can kind of look back and think, okay, if we have real faith, if our faith is real, and we believe all the things we're saying, then she has come to the greatest achievement of all time.
Yeah.
She is with Jesus. She is in perfection. She is not hurting. She is with her past relatives. She is in the presence of God.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you didn't answer my prayer, and it really hurts, and I'm really upset. But if we have the faith that we're talking about here, then we have to, in some ways, rejoice for that.
That's true.
Yeah, and I know we don't. I know we always say it. We're going to celebrate the life of Bob. Bob is a great guy. We're going to celebrate his life. And we never do. We never do. We go into the bar and we get drunk. Oh, we're going to have one for Bob, Okay, you're just an excuse to get drunk.
Yeah.
Or, we have these parties where we tell all these stories about Bob, and those are great. But when we leave those, we're still sad. When we leave those, we're still upset. And then that's great. But the Bible also tells us not to grieve as unbelievers
That's
do,
true.
because we have hope.
That's very true.
It doesn't say we don't grieve.
Yeah.
It just, we don't grieve like they do, because we have the hope in knowing that we will see them again.
Yeah.
And I think that's in all things. And in all our prayers, we can look and say, hey, God did this, or didn't do this, or stepped in, didn't step in, whatever you want to say. But there's always a purpose, and it's always to His glory.
That's true. And how many people have we come across over the years that walked away from the church, walked away from God because of some tragedy that they thought God was going to come through, and He didn't do it according to their expectations, and therefore they kind of flipped Him off and walked away. And it is tragic.
Yeah. Because you didn't wait just a little longer. Just
exactly.
wait just a little, because there's going to be something.
Yeah.
God always has something in store. It's always there. He's always working for our good. And there's always going to be something around the corner. We just have to have that. I mean, look, Kyle asked me a few weeks ago about a guy named Job. And, and
About who?
a guy named Job.
Oh, yeah.
And, and the faith that he had, and the fact that if he hadn't waited, if he hadn't have persevered, if he hadn't gone through that, then he would have never made it to the other side, and he would have never gotten everything back, and he would have never, been better than he was before.
Yeah.
And I think that we all, as we go through those things, we just have to have that knowledge that He can calm the storm.
Yeah.
He can stop it. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of in His time, not ours.
And how do we respond if He doesn't? I mean, if
Well,
the
that too,
disciples
yeah.
would have lost their boat and had to swim to shore,
Right.
I bet you many of them would have said, "You know what? Man,
We're done.
What the heck with this guy?
We're done.
Yeah.
I don't
And-
like water. We're done.
I mean, it's kind of a shallow
you're
attempt at.
You're a fisherman. I like to
can't
swim
swim.
in it.
They do the swimming. I don't.
Throw a net
I'm up
over
in the boat for a
That's
reason.
right, yeah. But like you said, I mean, Jesus said, get in the boat, we're going to the other side.
Yeah.
If God tells you we're going to the other side, then you can pretty much guarantee you're going to make it to
Yeah,
the other side.
Exactly.
Now, it may not be a straight line like you think it is.
Exactly.
But you're going to get to the other side.
Exactly.
And you're going to get there alive if he says, we are going to the other side.
Exactly.
Now, if he had said, get in the boat and let's go out in the middle of the sea.
Right.
You might have a reason to be worried.
Yeah.
Because we're in the middle of the sea, now what?
Mm-hmm.
Or if he had said, we're all going over to the other side except for John. John, get in the boat. Wait a minute, you said I wasn't going to the other side. Oh, you're not.
No, yep.
But you're getting in the boat.
Don't read ahead, John.
Sounds like a scene from Goodfellas.
Exactly.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Get in the trunk.
Well, and so when I came down with a round of cancer, I remember like it was yesterday. This was 12, 13 years ago. Being in the ER, having the ultrasound when the ultrasound tech. We were talking. I mean, I was trying to witness to the girl, and we were just talking about life, and she said, "Hey, I got to interrupt. I've got some bad news." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "I see a mass. We're gonna have to get you set up with the urologist ASAP. Like, I'm gonna leave here in a few seconds and go call the office and everything else." This was like at midnight on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, but tell me about, like, so why, and I got back to the story of what we were just talking about. And she was kind of flabbergasted. She's like, okay, yeah, so whatever. It's just she's finished the story. And
you heard what I said, right?
Yeah, exactly. And she thought I was kind of blowing it off. And in a way I was. And I was not detached from the moment. I wasn't dissociating because of the news of having cancer or anything like that. It was because in my heart of hearts, I feel like God, previous to that, had given me mission. I mean, he recently, this was, when I moved to Washington State, it was a very kind of supernatural story, interesting way of getting up there and everything else. And he kind of, just to them, we're going to get in the boat, we're going to the other side. He kind of said that to me in my life, in that kind of season of life. So when this happened, it was like the storm to me, and I'm not trying to brag, I'm just saying that this is kind of a practical life application for it. I knew that this wasn't going to take me out.
Right.
I knew it because, first off, he's not a
Because you
liar.
weren't on the other side yet.
Yeah, exactly. I hadn't finished the ministry that he told me and showed me and confirmed to me that was going to happen up in Washington.
Yeah.
It hadn't happened yet. And so, again, I was determined that this thing was just going to pass as quickly as it came, because it wasn't part of his plan as it relates to the long term.
Right.
And sure enough, had surgery. All my markers were down. And it was like life as usual. I didn't let it become the main part of the story.
Right.
So, Justin, you didn't know Troy then, did you?
No.
Because Troy is of no help when you were in a medical emergency or medical crisis, let's call it. Yeah, I had a tumor years ago that, as it turns out, well, it was a big deal, but I had an exceptional surgeon. I had surgery on a Thursday morning and went home by noon on Saturday. In the meantime,
With half a brain.
Troy tried to convince me that I was going to have to wear a special helmet after my surgery.
Helmet, got to put a helmet on. Well, if you also recall, Kyle, you sent me over your CT scans.
Yeah.
So Kyle sends me these. Kyle's a little nervous. Yeah, they told him he's got this tumor. He's like, it's probably benign, but it's in half your head, and it's the size of a softball. It's huge.
it wasn't a softball. It was as big as a
Grapefruit.
plum.
Like, it was
But
big.
that's big enough.
Whatever it was big, and it was inside his head, which I had always said Kyle had half a brain, and I was totally right. But anyway, that's beside the point. He sent me a CT scan, and I don't know if you've ever seen a brain on a CT scan, and I hadn't. But what I saw is all this white stuff everywhere, and then right down the middle was this black tubular-looking thing. It looked like a dog turd. I'm not lying. I even told Kyle, I said, Kyle, that looks horrible. And Kyle's like, yeah, right, I know. Because he had never seen one either. And then my wife walked in. She's like, you idiot, that's supposed to be there. There's this tumor right there.
Right.
And I went, oh.
Yeah,
that's
the problem
not so
was
bad.
what you
He didn't
just
have a
referred
brains
to.
after all.
Yes, he has a poop head.
Yeah, what you just referred to as a dog turd. I was supposed to have 2 of those,
Yeah,
but the tumor had pushed one of them basically closed.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah. So he had, instead of 2 dog turds, he only had 1. But like I said, he and I didn't ever look at a CT, and I don't think the doctor had explained it yet to him. He had gotten these a little early, and we're just like, holy crap, dude, they're going to pull all that in. Man, that looks I know, right? Oh, my God. And my wife's like, you idiots. Look, it's right there. It's like, oh.
But you know, my reaction, I think, was kind of similar to yours, Justin, when I met with my surgeon. You know, he just laid it out there for me, what was going to happen and all that. And he was like, well, you don't seem to be too worried about this. I was like, I wouldn't say I'm not worried. I said, but, you know, from what I can gather, I have a tumor in my head and you're going to take it out.
Yeah.
I said, you know, beyond that, I'm waiting on you to tell me when there's something else I need to be worried about. And he was like, well, it's a good idea. He said, in the meantime, stay off of Google
Yeah, exactly.
because then you will be worried.
And you know what the first thing Kyle did?
Google.
He went to Google.
Yeah, but I figured out pretty quick. I mean, the people that were on Google were the people that had not had a good experience for whatever reason. So, but yeah, it was, I mean, I've literally had root canals that were worse than brain surgery.
Oh, he looked.
Which was kind of funny because Troy came to see me in the hospital,
Oh.
which I'll hand it to him. He probably came to see if I was actually wearing a helmet.
I did. I asked the doctor if he was, you know, how he was going to get his helmet made.
He gets there thinking that I'm going to be like in a sling that has to like hoist me out of the bed. And he got there, and I think I had just walked back from the cafeteria. And he's like,
Yeah, but he looked, dude. He had these tubes coming out of his head.
yeah.
Out of his head,
Wow.
and they're dripping gooey, oozy stuff. This is brain juice. He's dripping brain juice out, and he's got these staples, dude, that go from the back of his ear all the way across, over the top, and over here.
Wow.
And so he's got this Frankenstein scar going across his head, tubes that are dripping oozy crap. I walk in, and he's kind of just laying there, you know, and I'm thinking, oh, God, he's dead. Oh, they must have him in a coma. And he opens his eyes and goes, what's up, dude? Seriously? I said, are you okay? Yeah, man, I'm fine.
Wow.
I said, are you hurting? Nah, not really. A little headache. And that was actually a joke, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I guess you would have a little headache. But no, I mean, it was no big deal. But I mean, they cut into his brain. I mean, that don't freak you out. I don't know what will. So anyway, he's right. I'm not that great in a crisis because I was trying to pick pallbearers, thinking who were, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, it was he and my wife that conspired jointly to convince me that I was going to have to wear a helmet.
Oh, yeah.
And I did get even with my wife because in recovery,
I think
you
I
know how
brought
they
you a
do the
helmet.
little
I
rub
brought
on
you
your
a
chest to
helmet.
wake you up? Do what?
I brought you a helmet, if you recall.
Oh, you brought me a football helmet, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, you brought me one of Hayden's old.
I got you an old white football helmet, and I brought
Yeah.
it just in case.
You did. But in recovery, the nurse doing that thing on your chest, and I'm like, what? And I wake up, and she's like, how many fingers? And I was like, 4. She's like, do you know where you are? I was like, I hope I'm still in the hospital. And she's like, do you recognize this person next to me? And I was like, got no idea who that is. And it was my wife. And the nurse just, and then my wife was like, I told you not to do that. And the nurse was
Not
like,
a clue. Not
did you
a
just do
clue.
that on purpose? And I said, yeah. She said, you're going to be fine.
Well,
So I did get even with her.
I think that to wrap all this up today, I think we need to definitely say some prayers tonight for the people in New Orleans and people in the path of this storm. They're in for a long road because I remember when Harvey came through, the storm itself was no big deal.
Yeah.
But we spent the next week stuck in our houses with no power and
Right.
water coming up to the doors. And that was this week. Back, like 7 years ago this week. No, 4 years ago this week. We had just moved into this house.
Yeah.
And So yeah, that's the worst part is not the storm so much. It's all the aftermath garbage of cleanup and
Well, you say
no
that, but
power.
are you still? Do you still keep up? Wasn't his name like Chuck Wydell or Larry Wydell?
Larry died. That's my uncle.
Oh.
He died.
I don't think I
died
knew
of-
that.
Yeah, he died of COVID a couple of months ago.
In Galliano, Golden Meadow. Okay, well,
His wife Dot still lives there, but she's with my cousin Joe Wydell, and he lives in Baton Rouge. But I think they went to be with my other cousin, his sister Beth, and they're in Lake Charles.
as long as they're not still in Galliano, because Galliano.
No, they're
is
definitely not in
absolutely
Galliano. They're
beat up.
definitely not down in Golden Meadow area. They're either in Baton Rouge, which I'm really hoping they're not, or they're over in Lake Charles, which I'm thinking they had and nobody was going west, so they probably had an easy time of getting there if they went to Lake Charles. And Lake Charles is going to get a little rain. It's going to get a little breezy, but no big deal. But yeah, no, Uncle Larry Dean, he passed away 3 or 4 months ago, complications of COVID. Very similar to my pastor's wife, where it was okay for a few days, went by, everything was fine, put him in the hospital, started putting him on oxygen, put him on CPAP, put him on BiPAP, and things just didn't get better, so they intubated him, and he just never made it out.
Jeez.
And it was a matter of just a couple of days. So, yeah. Yeah, he used to be the sheriff down there. Then he was on the council, and then he stayed pretty active in the community. He was still on the city council down there. So, yeah. Anyway, we need to really be thinking about them in our prayers.
Yeah.
And then as the days go by, anything we can do to help them out, we should probably try to do so. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering how to help, just keep your eyes on the TV. They'll tell you. But I'll tell you, some of the biggest help is, if you get a chance to go down there and help people clean up, that's usually the biggest help they can get. So till then, we'll see you on the next one. Hopefully, if this made it to YouTube, it'll definitely make it to YouTube on the audio. So we've already got a bunch of stuff on audio on YouTube right now. Hopefully the video will come out on this one. We'll see here shortly. And if it does, then hi. Wave to the camera. Hi. And there's Kyle still clickety-clacking his computer, which we hear every click you make, by the way. That's I sent you a little chat text message that says, "Hey, I can hear your mouse clicking." I guess you didn't know.
I don't see that.
It's under chat if you look under the chat on the thing. Anyway, doesn't matter. So hopefully this will be our threesome debut into the YouTube world. If not, we'll try again later. I haven't quite got us rednecks hadn't quite got all this stuff figured out yet. We're getting close though.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're listening to us on the podcast, give us some ratings. Tell us what you think. Share it with somebody else, and like I said, most of all, try to give us those 5 stars. So, Justin,
Yeah.
till next time, brother.
It's great seeing you.
Kyle, adios, America. Well, it's not just America. We're in just about every country out there, I think. Tens of listeners, just tens of them.
To the world, good night.
Yes, and to everyone else, do you know where your children are? God bless y'all.
See you guys.